page 156, and now I'm talking to y'all that if you have a book now, turn to that page. If you don't have a book, remember you're supposed to bring your book to class, okay? On page 156, they show some of the things that Mendel saw in the peas to get sorted. And here's something that was a problem back in the 1860s. When you grew peas, whatever you planted out there grew, and they didn't have any way of making sure that all the plants in the field would have purple flowers. So when he looked out there in his pea field, there were all kinds of different varieties. There were 7 different things that he saw. Flower color could be purple or white. Height of the plant could be dwarf or tall. The seeds could be yellow or green. There were all these different things that were found out there because it was not a purebred group of peas, okay? So I'm going to concentrate on the purple versus white flowers because, well, purple's my favorite color, right? Everything I have is purple. Okay? So here's what he did. He knew that purple flower plants were purebred, they were true breeders. And he knew that white flower plants were true breeders. In other words, if you cross together 2 purples, they got purple offspring, and 2 white flower ones would produce offspring that had white flowers. So he said, what's going to happen if I cross purple with white? And since I like purple so much, I'll just do that. Purple flower plant cross with white. So what does cross with mean? What it means is that the egg is coming from one plant and the sperm from the other. You know, plants have those same gametes that we have. So the pollen grain has the sperm and the female part has the egg part, okay? So that's, he tried purple flower plants and white flower plants. Now there was something that people thought at that time, speaking of hypotheses, there was a hypothesis that was not true. They thought there was such a thing as blended inheritance. In other words, they thought that when you crossed organisms that had sort of opposite things, that the offspring would be halfway between. So they thought if you crossed white flower plants with purple, you would get a lighter color of purple like lavender. Okay? That really was a funny thing for them to think because they've known since biblical times that that's not exactly true. Because if you look at the Bible and read this, there's places in there where they talk about mating together 2 black sheep or 2 white sheep or 2 black goats or 2 white goats. And what they already knew was if you cross together a black goat with a white one, the offspring are not going to be gray. They're either going to be black or white. So they already knew something about blended inheritance that people had forgotten. They also knew that if you cross together 2 black sheep, you could get a white offspring. But if you cross together 2 white sheep, all the babies are going to be white. Okay, so they knew some things just from their experiences over the years. Mendel was the first person who studied this in a scientific way. Okay, so they didn't know all the details that Mendel figured out. So he thought it was going to be blended. It turned out it wasn't. So when we looked at all the offspring as a result of this, all of them had purple flowers. That was a big surprise. Well, it wasn't halfway between all of them had purple. Where does the white go? He's like, what happened to the white? You know. Okay, he called this the P generation, not for peas, but for parents. And he called this generation F1, which means something like in Latin. But anyway, we just say that's the first offspring, okay? All these baby plants had purple flowers. Now, you got to think about this experiment that he's doing, okay? Because that took 1 year right there to do. So he crossed these 2 flowers by putting pollen on one of the other ones. And then he's got to wait until the seeds are formed, plant the seeds the next spring, wait till the plants grow up, and then see what kind of flowers they have. So this is a long-term experiment. And you know why Mendel was able to get so much information and to learn so much in these experiments? They didn't have any television. They didn't have any video games. So Mendel was not wasting his days away. He was learning some things that are very valuable to us to know, okay? So he found out they all had purple flowers. And then he had this brilliant idea. He said, what if I take plants from the F1 generation and cross them with each other? So what if it's not really mating, but if I take the plant from the F1 generation, and the color of purple is not different, I just accidentally picked up the wrong color, but anyway, when you cross those 2, what kind of offspring do you get? And so what he found out was, I don't want y'all to think it's lavender, it's not. When he crossed those 2, and he counted up the plants, he found that 3/4 of the F2 generation had purple flowers, and 1/4 had white. This was a major surprise. He had no idea this was going to happen because he thought white disappeared completely, and then in the next generation, here comes white back again. Now, if you look at your book, you'll see how many plants he used. He actually wrote his experiments out, and to do the flower color experiment, he looked at over 900 plants. So this is a difficult project and one that really got good information that Mendel did not understand what meiosis was. They had no idea yet about what chromosomes were. He had no idea about how sperm and egg were produced, but he learned something from doing this that we know today what it means. Okay? So he didn't know what it meant, but now we know. So let me tell you what we know that he eventually figured out, and he called this actually Mendel's law. When he finally understood it, the book says he called it the theory of segregation, which is separation of things. But he really didn't call it that. He called it Mendel's law. Okay? So what he figured out was that these true breeding plants had two genes of the same kind. One came from their daddy, and one came from their mama. Okay? This is just like the chromosomes that we were studying. Through meiosis, they make egg and sperm. So this came from the sperm of the father, that came from the egg of the mother. Okay? This other one over here is also purebred, but it's got two of the other kinds of genes. Okay? These two different kinds of genes, capital T and lowercase t, these are called alleles. So if you were thinking about the chromosomes, if you had the chromosome from the mother, chromosome from the father, that resulted from the zygote formation, one of them would have a capital T, and the other also has a capital T, in the case of the purple one. In the case of the white one, they have the lowercase letter, which represents the one that disappears in the F1 generation. Okay? So the reason we're not using a W is because the capital letter always goes on the one that does show up in the F1 generation. Okay? That's called dominant. So let me tell you about what that means. Okay? Out of those two alleles, one of them is dominant, which would be the capital T, and the other one is recessive, which would be the lowercase t, okay, the white flower. So recessive means that it disappears in the F1 generation. It's gone. The gene is still there, but you can't tell it because the dominant one covers it. You can see only purple. Okay? But when you get to the next generation, the recessive one comes back out again. So he knew the ratio, 3 to 1. This ratio, 3 to 1. But he had no way of explaining why. And he did not know what it was that was coming from each parent. He just knew something was. Okay, it's illegal. Alright, so then along comes another guy. You know, scientists kind of build on what each other learns, okay? Someone read his work in the late 1800s, and his name was Punnett. And Punnett invented something called a Punnett square. And he makes this kind of square, like a tic-tac-toe board, okay? And across the top, you can do it either way. Let's just say we put the kind of sperm that we can make one way, and the kind of egg that we can make the other way. So the alleles, look at the alleles again. It didn't matter which one was the father and which one was the mother plant. So the pollen could come from one, or the seeds could be made, it didn't make any difference at all, okay? So the alleles I'm talking about, let's see, we have this, okay? If that's a sperm-making plant, then it's only got one thing the sperm can carry, which is the capital T. On the other hand, if it's got this, half of the sperm are going to have the capital T and half will have the lowercase, okay? So that's what you put in the square. Here's my sperm formation, one capital T. Now we know that there's 4 haploid cells made, not just 2. But you can sort of simplify it. Okay, there's only 2 kinds of sperm can be made. And then the other parent, okay, it can only make 2 kinds of sperm. Okay. And then you take that's the F1 generation when you cross them. Oh, and by the way, where they got their original letters from, I forgot to say. But every cell every newborn zygote has to have one allele from the father and one allele from the mother. Okay, so that's where they got to be 2 different ones. That's the F1 generation. Okay, then you take a little Punnett square and you fill it out. The capital letters here and the capital letters here go in this box. Capital letters, lowercase letters. Capital letters, lowercase letters. And here's there's 2 little t's. Okay, so Punnett squares represent the percentage, the ratio that you're going to get